Tell me what makes the Okavango Delta so special?
The Okavango Delta is quite a unique environment from a wildlife perspective. If you had to look at the map of Botswana, you'd soon realize that you're actually right in the middle of a desert. Now, deserts you wouldn't expect to have much life, but coming from the north is a huge river, starting up in Angola, meandering through Zambia, and then finally down into Botswana. And a big depression is formed in that piece of land, and the water all slips slowly into that environment. So you take a desert, you add a whole lot of water to it, and all of a sudden all the life grows up there. So while the rest of the country is particularly dry, and the water seeps into the Okavango Delta, all the wildlife congregate and they move into that area, making it an incredibly rich wilderness environment. Absolutely, there was no shortage of the experiences. It's hard to think back on the 13 days that we've spent together and the experiences that we had. Day one, our safari started on a big high. We had a very good guide in Botswana, Sky. He knew exactly what he was doing. He took us out into the bush on our open Land Rover, and within 1 hour of being out in the bush, we came across a leopard out in the distance, all spread out over a tree. Classic leopard position. You couldn't have asked for anything better. When we got a little bit closer to see what she was doing, we were all taking photos of the mother, and then next thing a little baby popped up in the background. So we had a mother and cub leopard on the first game drive, and that is it was a real treat because it's not something you get to see all the time. I can say that in all honesty, leopard we get to see regularly, but a mother and a baby so relaxed they couldn't have been more than 10 meters away from us. So that really was an exceptional stop. No, absolutely, it's every safari is different, and that's the beauty in it. Once you've been on safari, it doesn't mean you've seen everything in the wild. Every time you go out there, something different happens. Our second morning that we went out, the guys had told us that there was a lion kill the previous night. They'd taken a buffalo, so we went into that area to see if we could find those lions and see what they were doing moving around. Lions had moved off, unfortunately, but we were very surprised when we drove around the bush and there was a hyena carrying the skull of the buffalo, and it was moving through the bush, went down into the grass, found a little patch of water, a little wallow, went and sat down. A little pup came up right next to it, started playing with the mother, and then the hyena got up and walked away, and another adult came, and then there was a whole lot of commotion. They were playing around, splashing around in the water. There was a lot of activity, a lot of beautiful interaction. We thought, what a perfect way to end the day. We started heading back towards camp, and just before we got back to camp, we came across a waterhole, and unfortunately it was a little bit of a sad thing to see, but there was a baby hippo that had died during the course of the night. And right on top of the baby hippo was the monitor lizard. Again, something you don't see every day. So our sightings have been exceptional. Just between, and I think that's what makes the Okavango Delta such a remarkable place. It's the abundance of wildlife, but the interaction between the species that you see. Because every exciting experience we had was something happening between two species. Later on that evening, we went out further into the delta, into some very marshy areas. And we found two lioness feeding on a hippopotamus. Again, something you don't see regularly. And they were eating on that carcass. Spent a little bit of time, not the most pleasant thing to see. It had been there for some time. We returned the next day, 24 hours later. 1,500 kilograms of hippopotamus was totally gone. The hyenas had come during the course of the night, the vultures the following day, and they devoured that entire carcass. So the sightings have been quite exceptional. From the big game, it's been exceptional, and that's often what a lot of people seek on their safari experience for their first time. But it was very quick for us all to start to open our eyes and look at the smaller things out over there. And I think I always like to take something rewarding back from a safari, and we get to see magnificent things, but the beauty in the work that I use working with people. And I think the reward that I have from this experience is being able to convince Bill Susetka to get into birding. Yes, can you believe it? It was quite remarkable.
It was remarkable.
And the reason I say it's remarkable because within the first 5 minutes of meeting Bill, he had told me, Marco, we've just been to Nisen Elephant Park and we came within 5 meters of an elephant. Why do we need to go out on safari? I've seen it all already. 7, 8 days later, he's sitting there trying to spot birds and see what he can see, and proud to say that of all the birds and of all the guests together on the vehicle, we all put a number together to see how many birds we thought we would see, and Bill went for the highest figure. So he's been the most enthusiastic to see what we can see out there. So it's been a great experience.
He really is a convert, and a lot of that is thanks to you and our other wonderful guide.
Yes,
You know,
no, it has been
guides that we've
exceptional.
had. Just quickly, could you just contrast the Chobe River and the Delta?
Absolutely, two very different environments. Well, the Delta is primarily a floodplains and a wetland environment. Quite a flat area, quite marshy, a lot of big wooded trees around on the islands. The Chobe River is one big channel of water moving through the land, and our days out there were really to experience time on the water. While the Delta, we were primarily on game drive vehicles. When we arrived out in Chobe, we were met and we were taken straight through to our home for the next 3 days, which was the Zambezi Queen. And that is a very luxurious houseboat that drifts down the Chobe River itself. So we were sleeping 3 nights on the Chobe River. Our days were filled with water-based activities. We went out on small little tender boats, drifting down the river. We got to see some interesting things out there as well. We had a beautiful herd of elephants right maybe 20-30 meters away from us. Yeah, absolutely, right on the water's edge, playing around by the water, dust bathing, quite close to all the boats. That was quite exciting. The following day we even tried tiger fishing, which I can say was a huge success. We caught probably 4 tigers, about that big. I must say mine was a little bit bigger than Bill's, but it was a good day. No, it was a dismal failure, but we still.
But it was
had a
fun
great
to be
time.
out
It was
there.
fun to be out. So the Chobe River was very, very different. And then from that point we moved further east away from Chobe River to Victoria Falls. And I think this was a big highlight of the experience because of the grandeur of the falls itself. Not the widest, not the tallest, but most certainly one of the most magnificent waterfalls in the world. And we had the opportunity to see it from a variety of different perspectives. Our first night was heading to the famed lunar rainbow. It wasn't the brightest it's said to have been, right? The following day everyone headed out, and I think from the stories and the video footage I've seen, it was a big highlight. It was heading down very close through the gorge, following the course of the Zambezi right up to the falls, and then circling around the falls and seeing it from a bird's eye perspective. And shortly after that it was experiencing the falls while walking on foot. And we got absolutely soaked during that. The water crashes down as the gorge shoots back up. There's a thin little bridge that goes over one of the gorges, and the water comes from underneath, from the side, from the top. You're totally drenched, but a beautiful way to experience it. And they say it's a blessing to be rained upon by the falls water, so it was a great experience.
It was. And now here we are in South Luangwa
Yes.
National Park. What makes this park so unique?
Well, this park's quite unique because it sits right at the southern end of the East Rift Valley in Africa, and as it branches out into this region, you have a massive valley, the Luangwa Valley itself, and it's a huge catchment area. So a lot of water gets caught within the valley itself and drifts down to the lower lying areas where the river itself is formed, the Luangwa River, which draws a lot of life into this area. So it's quite rich in wildlife and diversity. The bird life has been exceptional out over here. The bush is very thick at the moment, but the beauty at this time of the year is that there's a lot of life. Dry months can be very good for mammals, but March is a very good time for just general diversity. Because of our wager that we've had, we've been putting a lot of energy on our birding, and we've seen some interesting birds. In fact, it's been so good that our local guide, John, spotted a bird he's never seen before, and he's been guiding for many, many years. So we helped him along the way to tick off a new bird in his list. But it's been beautiful, the weather's been great. We're staying in a magnificent lodge, a lodge that was originally built for presidents of Zambia, and has now been converted into a lodge. So we've been sitting in the lap of luxury, and it's been a beautiful, beautiful few days out here.
Last question, what do you think of the three of us? Would you be willing to guide us again?
Well, that's a tough question to ask, actually. I'll have to give that some thought. I'll guess that when I get back home.
Okay.
No, people often ask me, I often say to people at the end of the trip that it's been an absolute pleasure to guide them. People often, the response is to say, well, I bet you have to say that. And yes, perhaps I do have to say that, but it's very seldom that I really get to mean it. So it's been really great meeting everyone on this trip. I think the key components of any successful safari is people with a positive attitude that come with very few expectations and just come out here to enjoy themselves. If people come out with high expectations and big lists of what they want to see, they often miss out on everything that's happening around them. So it's been incredibly fun. Fun has been because everyone wanted to have fun, and we've all gotten on so well, and I think that's what's made the safari a great success. We've had some big things and big animals in the beginning part of the safari that was great, and as we moved on, we started focusing on some of the smaller species, and I think that's a rewarding experience for me because people get to come out here and realize that it's not just about the big animals. And then I know that I've had the opportunity to open that up, that part of the world to people. So to answer the question, it's been an absolute pleasure to have guided everyone, and I would definitely be keen to see everyone in Africa again.
Wonderful.
Fantastic. Okay.
Let's just keep that photo on for just 1 second, if you don't mind,
Okay.
because I just want everyone who's going to ever watch any of this recognize the truth in life. My wife loves this trip because Marco is a great-looking guy that knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, you mentioned
And
that
whether
once
I
before.
came or didn't come, you still would have had a great time. But I am glad I came.